August 7th, 2025. Zaporizhzhya, eastern Ukraine. Before dawn, the fields lay quiet. Farmers had fled weeks earlier. The only sounds were distant artillery and the rustle of dry wheat. At 5:45 a.m., the silence broke. From Melitopol, a Russian armored column thundered forward. 50 T-90M main battle tanks, 70 BMP-3s, hundreds of supply trucks. Over 600 soldiers packed tight inside armored hulls. Fuel trucks hauling enough diesel for a week-long offensive. Ammunition carriers loaded with mortars, rockets, and machine guns. To Moscow, this was not just a convoy. It was a show of power, designed to crush resistance and intimidate Kyiv into submission. But what the Kremlin did not know was that Ukraine had prepared a trap unlike anything seen before. For weeks, Russia had pressed a brutal ultimatum. Ukraine must withdraw at least 50 kilometers from every sea's base or face total destruction. President Zelensky's reply was clear: not one step back. Ukraine's generals knew if this column reached its destination, it would dig in, transform into a fortress, and launch deep strikes toward Dnipro, a city of nearly 1 million people. Time was running out. They could not allow it. So inside a hardened command bunker, Ukraine's southern defense commanders devised something unprecedented. Phase 1, swarms of low-cost suicide drones to fracture the formation. Phase 2, flying mines triggered mid-air to break infantry morale. Phase 3, a ground assault using motorcycles. Lightweight, fast, deadly. Yes, motorcycles against tanks. An idea that sounded insane, until that morning. At 6:28 a.m., the first wave launched. 80 suicide drones, each the size of a dirt bike, each carrying a 12-kilogram shape-charged warhead, skimmed across the fields at 140 kilometers per hour. Flying just 5 meters above the ground, they slipped beneath Russian radar. Russian gunners spotted them too late. BMP-3 cannons opened up. Streams of tracers filled the sky. The swarm pressed on. The first explosion tore apart a lead BMP. The blast lifted its 18-ton chassis clean off the ground. Seconds later, 3 drones slammed into trucks carrying mortar shells. The detonation created a rolling firestorm that ripped through 200 meters of convoy, killing dozens instantly. Then came the second phase. Quadcopters carrying anti-tank mines drifted overhead. Every time Russian soldiers shot one down, it exploded in midair, spraying shrapnel across 30 meters. Entire platoons shredded in seconds. Within minutes, the proud steel serpent slowed, then halted. Engines roared, men shouted, smoke and fire blanketed the road. The convoy was no longer advancing. It was trapped in chaos. From behind an earthen ridge came a new sound, the relentless scream of engines. 200 dirt bikes erupted into view. Each carried 2 Ukrainian soldiers, a driver and a gunner armed with RPGs, guided missiles, or automatic rifles. These were no ordinary bikes. At just 145 kilograms, they could hit 60 kilometers an hour in under 5 seconds. They could leap irrigation ditches, climb 40-degree slopes, and weave through terrain that no tank could follow. The riders split into 3 wings. Wing 1, 80 bikes, plunged south, using smoke from burning BMPs as cover. In less than 5 minutes, 3 Russian tanks were destroyed by close-range RPG fire. Wing 2, 60 bikes, looped north. Despite heavy resistance from autocannons, they knocked out 5 APCs in just minutes. Wing 3, the hammer blow, circled wide behind the convoy. At point-blank range, they struck 2 massive fuel trucks. The fireball rose 40 meters, igniting nearby vehicles and cutting off retreat. Russian crews panicked. Many abandoned tanks, believing they were under full artillery bombardment. In just 15 minutes, 21 armored vehicles burned. Rivers of diesel ran across the fields, and the once proud column became prey, hunted on all sides by men on motorcycles. By 6:55 a.m., the battlefield was unrecognizable. Columns of black smoke rose skyward, visible for miles. Ukrainian infantry moved in, using wrecks as cover. Mortar teams, positioned over a kilometer away, dropped shells with deadly precision, each strike guided by drones circling above. The kill zone shrank from nearly a mile to less than 500 meters. Russian soldiers threw down helmets and vests, sprinting across open fields. Radio intercepts revealed desperation, frantic calls for artillery that never came. At 7:03 a.m., the last resistance crumbled. Mortars blasted a final cluster of APCs. Survivors huddled in shallow depressions, surrounded on three sides. By 7:08 a.m., the white flags appeared. The result stunned analysts worldwide. 29 armored vehicles destroyed, including 9 T-90, Ms-11 more disabled. 4 fuel trucks annihilated, 7 ammunition carriers detonated, 140 Russian soldiers killed, 180 captured, including company commanders, and mountains of rifles, launchers, and ammunition seized intact. What Moscow had hoped would be a decisive breakthrough ended as a humiliating disaster. In less than 95 minutes, Russia's armored spearhead had been erased, not by overwhelming firepower, not by NATO jets or missiles, but by ingenuity, speed, and ruthless precision. Drones built for under $4,000 had crippled tanks worth millions. Motorcycles, faster and more agile than any APC, had outflanked and isolated an entire mechanized battalion. The battlefield told a story: smoking hulks of steel, discarded rifles stacked in surrender, and the eerie silence after the storm. For Russia, the loss was staggering, not just in equipment, but in morale. An entire battalion wiped out before breakfast. For Ukraine, it was proof. Proof that creativity can outmatch brute force, that cheap, improvised weapons can level the field against a superpower. And for NATO observers, the lesson was undeniable. The future of war is not about who has the biggest arsenal. It is about who adapts the fastest, who thinks differently, who refuses to back down. Ukraine had shown the world that ingenuity can shatter steel. And the Battle of Zaporizhzhya, August 2025, will be remembered as one of the most decisive counterstrikes of the war.